Okay, so we're going to continue with other issues with urbanization. One of them is being sanitation problems in the city. Please take a minute and summarize this slide onto question number 18 on your study guide. Cities had a hard time supplying safe drinking water. People threw garbage out their windows. Sewage was flowing in the streets. And then by 1900, many cities had built sewers and created sanitation departments. And here are some pictures of the sewage and the garbage, so on and so forth. Again, if I move too fast, please remember to pause. Question number 20 is asking, how did reformers help the poor? If you take a look at this slide here titled Reformers Help the Poor. Social Gospel Movement, Early Reform Program. Leaders preached that people reach salvation by helping the poor. They established settlement houses located in the slums, help and friendship for poor and the immigrants. So number 20, how did they help the poor? They established settlement houses and reached out to the immigrants. Please write that down for number 20. Question number 21 is asking, who is Jane Addams and what did she help? What did she do to help? Jane Addams is on this slide here, and many settlement houses were run by women. Jane Addams was a well-known social reformer, so write that down, a social reformer. And you can add, she established the Hull House in Chicago. So write down for number 21 was she was a reformer and she opened up the Hull House. So now we're on to section 3, which is politics in the Gilded Age. Question number 22 is asking you to describe the political machines. You're going to find that on this slide here. Political machines. During the late 1800s, many cities run by a political machine. This was an organized group headed by a city boss that controlled activities of a political party in the city. They offered services to voters and businesses in exchange for political or financial support. So go ahead and summarize this slide onto question number 22. Question number 23 is asking, many political bosses were corrupt. Explain how the graft and kickbacks were a form of corruption. Many bosses got rich through graft. Please write this down. A graft is the illegal use of political influence for personal gain. They would win elections, and some filled the list of eligible voters with names of dogs and the dead. And kickbacks, workers on city construction projects would charge a higher price and then, quote unquote, kick back part of the fee to the bosses. Bosses also taking bribes from businesses in returning for allowing illegal or unsafe activities. Please summarize that. Graft and kickbacks for number 23. 24 is asking you, who is Boss Tweed and what is the Tweed Ring? Boss Tweed and Tammany Hall. William Marcy Tweed, a.k.a. Boss Tweed, one of the most powerful political bosses, became head of Tammany Hall, New York City's most powerful democratic machine. So go ahead and you can write down, he became Boss Tweed. And continue here, the Tweed Ring was a corrupt group of politicians led by Boss Tweed. A political cartoonist made fun of the Tweed in newspapers. Authorities broke up the Tweed Ring in 1870, and many of his followers went to prison. So there was a couple pictures here for you to look at, but you can just write down for the ring that it was a group of politicians that were all corrupt. Question number 25 is asking you to define patronage and civil service. Please take a minute and define those two terms from this slide here. So patronage is giving government jobs to people of the same party who help them get elected. However, civil service, these are government jobs. So what they wanted to do was reform them and make it based on a merit system. So then they started doing the civil service exam. Question number 26 is, what did President Hayes attempt to do? He attempted to reform civil service. Some members of the Republican Party objected, and then he decided not to run for re-election in 1880. So now the Republican Party is divided. Question number 27 is asking, explain what is the difference between a stalwart and a reformer. A stalwart opposed change in the patronage system, and a reformer wanted to change the system. So please write that down for question number 27. So now we have the Republican Party settles on James A. Garfield, and he's an independent candidate. However, he was assassinated. So for number 28, you can write down he was assassinated. And why? Because he wanted to reform things. And if you look right here, he was shot by a stalwart, which is someone who does not want changes in the government. Please write that down for number 28. Number 29 is, what is the purpose of the Pendleton Civil Service Act of 1883? It created a civil service commission to give government jobs based on merit, not politics, and it helped to reform the civil service system. Please summarize that for question number 29. '30 is asking, what is a tariff? You should know this by now. Is a tax placed on goods coming into our country? Please write that down for question number 30. Most Americans believe tariffs were necessary to protect U.S. industry from foreign competition. Tariffs did cause prices to rise. When prices rise, who is negatively affected? You should be saying to yourself, the people. For 12 years, tariffs were a key issue in presidential elections. For number 31, who tried to reduce the tariffs? You can go ahead and write down President Grover Cleveland. He tried, but he failed. President Benjamin Harrison, he was a Republican who supported big business. He signed the McKinley Tariff Act into law, and then tariffs were raised to their highest levels ever. Cleveland defeats Harrison to become president again, and once again he was unsuccessful in reducing tariffs.